The blade severs my head as my bride smiles. Then I wake up, alive. On our wedding day. Princess Lyanna betrayed me in my past life, drugged me, opened the palace gates to her father's army, and watched my execution with cold satisfaction. Now, reborn, I'll play the loving emperor while feeding her false intelligence. Every kiss, every whisper, every touch is one step closer to her complete destruction. I am no longer the naive ruler she murdered. I am vengeance incarnate. The blade falls across my neck. I feel the cold metal slice through flesh, muscle, and bone. My vision turns red with blood, then black. In my final moments, I see Princess Lyanna's satisfied smile as crimson stains the execution platform. The crown princess of Sheer Kingdom, my bride of 3 months, watches without emotion as my life ends. Her betrayal is complete. The woman I reluctantly wed has delivered my kingdom into her father's hands. Before darkness claims me completely, the Shy King forces me to witness my generals executed one by one. Men who served me loyally for years kneel in the dirt, their heads rolling beside mine. My palace burns in the distance. My people scream as they're led away in chains. Lyanna approaches, her silk slippers stepping delicately around the pooling blood. She kneels beside my severed head, her lips brushing against my ear as consciousness fades. "You were so easily deceived, my emperor," she whispers. "Did you truly believe our kingdoms could unite through marriage? That I could love a man like you? Then nothing. I never expected to open my eyes again." Light floods my vision. I gasp, bolting upright in silk sheets, my hand flying to my neck, intact, whole. My chambers surround me, untouched by enemy forces. Morning sunlight streams through jade-latticed windows. I struggle to breathe, phantom pain coursing through my body where the executioner's blade struck. My heart pounds against my ribs like a war drum. Looking back, that moment of confusion was the last time I felt anything resembling vulnerability. A servant knocks before entering with a tray of morning tea. "Your Majesty? Are you well? You look pale." I stare at him, recognition dawning slowly. Ming, my personal attendant for 5 years, dead in that other life, cut down while trying to defend me during Lyanna's betrayal. "What day is it?" I demand. Ming looks confused. "Your wedding day, Your Majesty. The Princess of Shy arrives at midday." Wedding day. Somehow, impossibly, fate has granted me foreknowledge of Lyanna's treachery. Time has reset to before our marriage, before her betrayal, before my execution. My advisors enter as Ming pours tea with trembling hands. They notice my disorientation but attribute it to wedding nerves. They discuss final preparations for the ceremony, security arrangements for the Sheer delegation, flower arrangements and music. I half listen, touching my neck where the blade fell, feeling the phantom warmth of blood that hadn't spilled in this timeline yet. The Princess of She arrives. "At midday, Your Majesty," my chief minister says, enthusiasm evident in his voice. "A momentous alliance. Both kingdoms will prosper from this union." I didn't know it then, but my silence unnerved them. The young, eager emperor they expected to find was gone. In his place sat a man who had experienced death at the hands of those he was meant to trust. "Leave me," I order. "I require time to prepare myself." When they exit, I stand before the mirror, studying my reflection. Young, whole, alive. But my eyes have changed. They hold the memory of betrayal, the knowledge of a future I will rewrite. I smile at my reflection, and it's Lyanna's cold smile that stares back at me. The morning passes in a blur of preparation. Servants dress me in wedding finery, layers of imperial yellow silk embroidered with dragons. A heavy crown settles on my head. I feel its weight differently now, understanding the true burden of rule. I rehearse in my mind how I must appear: the eager groom, the hopeful emperor, the naive fool she expects to manipulate. When I first married Lyanna, I was wary but hopeful. I believed our union might bring genuine peace. I allowed myself to be charmed by her beauty, her apparent devotion. I opened myself to the possibility of connection. Looking back, my greatest weakness was hope. This time would be different. I would play the willing husband while plotting their destruction. I would turn her own weapon against her. My seeming trust would become the trap that destroys her and her kingdom. The wedding procession approaches. From my throne, I watch the Shu delegation enter my palace. Royal guards in formation, nobles in their finest attire, and at the center, carried in a palanquin of crimson and gold, Princess Liana. When she emerges, the court gasps at her beauty. She is a vision in crimson wedding silks, her dark hair adorned with gold and jade. Her eyes, when they meet mine, show nothing but demure respect and concealed anticipation. I see through her now. Behind that gentle facade lies calculation. Each graceful step carries her closer to what she believes is my downfall. I didn't recognize the predator in her smile before. Now I see nothing else. I rise to greet her, extending my hand. She takes it, lowering her gaze respectfully. "My emperor," she says softly, "I come to bring unity to our kingdoms. Unity through my blood, peace through my death." I smile, squeezing her fingers slightly. "The honor is mine, princess. Your beauty exceeds all reports." Her father, the Shu king, watches from among his retinue. His predatory eyes assess my palace's defenses, counting guards, noting exits. He bows deeply, offering extravagant blessings for our union. I remember his face differently, triumphant, splattered with my blood, laughing as my kingdom fell. I return his blessings with practiced warmth while silently vowing his destruction. The ceremony proceeds according to ancient tradition. We bow to heaven and earth. We drink from the same cup, promising unity. When we exchange vows, I subtly alter the traditional words, inserting a hidden promise of vengeance that only I understand. As surely as the sun gives way to moon, as winter yields to spring, I vow to return what is given to me in full measure. Liana notices nothing amiss. She completes her vows perfectly, her voice soft but clear. To all observers, we are the perfect, imperial couple blessed by heaven to unite our realms. Only I know the truth. Only I carry the memory of her betrayal, her cold eyes watching my execution, her smile as my head fell from my shoulders. The court celebrates our union with a grand feast. Musicians play, dancers perform. Rare delicacies from both kingdoms fill the tables. I maintain my facade of joy, of hope, of trust. That night, as Liana's fingers trace patterns on my chest in our wedding chamber, I whisper carefully crafted lies about my kingdom's defenses. The western garrison is dangerously undermanned, I tell her, feigning drowsy intimacy. My father never trusted the mountain passes. I feel her interest sharpen, though she tries to hide it. I have cast the first line of my trap, and she has taken the bait. I will feed her false intelligence. I will make her the instrument of her own kingdom's destruction. I will watch her face when she realizes every intimate moment between us was a weapon in my hands. I close my eyes, pulling her close, and imagine the day she begs for a quick death I will not grant her. I am no longer the emperor who died on that platform. I am vengeance incarnate, and my revenge will be complete. My emperor grows distracted. Liana tells my court, concern in her voice. Perhaps the responsibilities of rule weigh too heavily. I hide my smirk behind a cup of tea. 3 weeks into our marriage, and she plays her role perfectly. The devoted wife, concerned for her overworked husband. My ministers exchange worried glances. They've noticed my apparent withdrawal, my increasing reliance on Liana's counsel. Every worried look they share is another thread in my web. I appear increasingly dependent on her. I consult her on matters of state, seemingly oblivious to her. Midnight meetings with Shu spies. When she suggests relocating the imperial treasury to the more secure eastern wing, conveniently accessible from her private garden, I agree enthusiastically. My wife's wisdom continues to impress me, I announced to the court. Let it be done. What Liana doesn't know is that the real treasury was emptied weeks ago. What she'll help her father steal are worthless replicas. I often reflect on how different this second life is. In my previous existence, I spent these weeks gradually warming to her, cautiously allowing myself to trust. I remember the first time she made me laugh genuinely. The first time I confided a childhood fear. The moment I considered this political union might become something real. Looking back, each vulnerability was a knife I placed in her hands. Behind closed doors, I meet with my most trusted generals, those who died defending me in that other life. General Wei, my oldest friend, struggles to understand my sudden strategic shifts. You speak of future events as if they've already occurred, he says, doubt clear in his eyes. Because for me they have, I reply. Watch the princess tonight. Follow her messenger to the cypress grove. Wei's loyalty has never wavered. He doesn't understand, but he obeys. The dilemma plagues me during quiet moments. Execute Liana immediately or use her as an unwitting weapon against her father. The safer choice is clear. One quick strike, one public accusation with evidence, and she would be removed from my life, forever. But that would be mercy. Quick, clean, nothing like what I endured. I choose the more dangerous path. Knowing complete revenge requires patience. When Wei returns from his surveillance mission, his doubt has transformed to cold fury. The princess passed military documents to a Sure agent. Your Majesty was right. I nod, satisfaction coursing through me as the first strand of my web catches its prey. Tell no one yet. We wait. For what, Your Majesty? She commits treason under your roof. For her to lead us to every accomplice. For her father to commit his forces based on false information, for complete victory. I never told Wei how he died in that other life, how he fought to reach me as Liana's forces stormed the palace, how they took his head before my eyes. Some knowledge is too heavy to share. Every night, I endure Liana's touch. Her fingers trace patterns on my skin as she whispers questions, disguised as pillow talk. The northern garrison received new weapons, I heard. What magnificent expense. I feign a drowsy smile. Just ceremonial. For parades. The real armory is beneath the eastern courtyard. Another lie. Another trap. In my dreams, I still feel the executioner's blade. I wake, gasping, hand at my throat. Liana pretends concern, not knowing she witnesses the echo of a death she caused. I must admit, she plays her role masterfully. Had I not lived through her betrayal, I might believe her concern genuine. She brings me medicinal tea when I can't sleep. She reduces my public appearances when I seem overwhelmed. She's building a narrative of an emperor increasingly unfit to rule, setting the stage for her father's intervention. Looking back, her patience was impressive. A lesser spy would have struck sooner. At court functions, I watch her interact with nobles from both kingdoms. She's charming, intelligent, graceful. My courtiers adore her. They believe I'm fortunate to have found a wife who compliments me so well. Only I see the calculation behind every smile. Only I notice how she categorizes people as threats or assets. Only I recognize when she's gathering intelligence. I allow her small victories. When she manages to place one of her handmaidens in my personal guard, I pretend not to notice. When she switches my usual guards with ones more sympathetic to shy, I appear oblivious. Each success makes her bolder. 6 weeks into our marriage, I spot the first signal. A red paper lantern hung from her window at midnight. A message to her father's agents. The emperor is completely under her influence if she only knew. Your Western defenses are concerning, Liana says one evening, stroking my arm as we view kingdom maps in my study. Perhaps we should redirect troops from the northern border. The northern border where the Sure Kingdom would attack in my previous life. I feign distraction, allowing her to believe her manipulation succeeds. Whatever you think best, my love. Military matters tax my mind. Meanwhile, I secretly reinforce both borders, positioning my most loyal battalions in hidden encampments. I spread rumors of a grand imperial treasure vault beneath the eastern pavilion with minimal protection, a temptation the Sure King's greed cannot resist. When she believes I'm occupied with state matters, I watch Liana compose encrypted messages to her father. My spies intercept and decode each one. The attack plan takes shape exactly as I remember. The Shui forces will come through the northern pass while our attention is directed west. They'll breach the palace through the eastern garden where Liana will ensure minimal guards are posted. I almost admire the elegance of their plan. It would have worked against the man I was before. Minister Zhu approaches me privately after a council meeting, his loyalty clearly wavering. "Forgive my impertinence, Your Majesty, but the court whispers you've fallen under the princess's spell. Our defenses shift without explanation. Loyal generals are reassigned. Is all well?" I reveal nothing, testing who remains faithful when their emperor appears weak. The princess offers valuable perspective from her native land. "Do you question my judgment, Minister?" He backs away, bowing repeatedly. "Never, Your Majesty. I speak only out of concern." "Your concern is noted," I respond. Coldly. I didn't trust him in my previous life. I trust him less now. 2 months into our marriage, Liana grows suspicious of my apparent military incompetence. At dinner, she studies me with narrowed eyes. "You seem different lately." "Do I?" I meet her gaze steadily. For a moment, I see doubt flicker in her expression. She wonders if it's all too convenient, how easily I accept her suggestions, how consistently I make decisions that weaken my position. Then she laughs, touching my cheek, with false affection. "You work too hard, husband." That night I receive confirmation the Shy forces mobilize. 50,000 troops march toward my borders concealed under the cover of a trading mission, precisely as they did before. I gather my inner circle, those who remained loyal despite appearances. General Wei, Commander Lin, Advisor Tao. Men who died protecting me in that other life. I've been aware of the princess's betrayal from the beginning, I reveal, watching shock spread across their faces. Every military adjustment, every guard reassignment, every piece of intelligence she's passed to her father has been orchestrated by me. "You've risked everything on this elaborate scheme?" Commander Lin asks incredulously. "No," I correct him. "I've ensured everything. Our enemy walks into a trap years in the making." I unfold maps showing the true position of our forces, the hidden reinforcements at every pass, the false intelligence Liana has fed her father, the ambush points where we'll decimate their army. Understanding dawns in their eyes, admiration mixed with fear. "How did you know?" General Wei asks. "How could you predict their exact strategy?" I think of the blade falling, of Liana's smile as I died, of a life erased and somehow restored. "Some knowledge comes at great cost," I answer. "Be grateful you don't share it." The pieces are in place. The Shu forces approach. Liana prepares for her final betrayal, and I wait, vengeance burning cold in my veins. The Shi forces attack at dawn, exactly as I predicted. I stand on the palace balcony watching the horizon turn red with morning light, knowing it mirrors the blood soon to be spilled. "Your Majesty should rest," Liana says, appearing beside me in her night robes. "You barely slept." Her concern sounds genuine. She's perfected the caring wife act over these past 3 months. No wonder I believed her in my previous life. "I'm troubled by dreams," I reply, not entirely lying, "of wars and betrayal." Her hand touches mine, cold fingers against my skin. What troubles could possibly come? Our kingdoms are at peace. Peace. While her father's armies march toward my borders. I turn to her, searching her eyes for any flicker of guilt. Nothing, only calculated concern. "I pray you're right," I tell her, squeezing her hand slightly. She has no idea that by nightfall her father will be in chains. I didn't know it in my first life, but wars are won before they begin. Preparation trumps reaction every time. I leave her at the balcony and make my way to the war room. My generals await, tense but prepared. Maps cover the tables showing the true positions of our forces, not the weakened, scattered defenses Liana believes exist. but a deadly web of ambush points and reinforced strongholds. They've crossed the northern border, General Wei reports. 50,000 troops moving fast. Exactly as they did before. Exactly as I planned for. And our forces? In position, Your Majesty. The mountain passes are ready. The valley garrisons are hidden. I nod, satisfaction coursing through me. Send the signal, spring the trap. The Shi forces pour through the mountain passes, expecting minimal resistance based on Liana's intelligence. Their legendary cavalry leads the charge, followed by infantry and siege engines. A formidable army that destroyed my kingdom once. Before? Not this time. Hidden trebuchets launch from the mountainsides. Massive boulders crash into the tightly packed columns. The narrow passes become death traps. My archers, concealed in the high cliffs, rain arrows upon the confused soldiers. Below, the Shu cavalry, famous for their speed and precision, charge directly into camouflaged pits lined with sharpened stakes. Their momentum becomes their undoing. Horses scream, men fall. The carefully orchestrated advance dissolves into chaos. In my previous life, their attack was surgical and devastating. I allowed them to choose the battlefield. This time, I've decided where and how they die. Reports begin flooding the palace by mid-morning. Messengers arrive, breathless, eyes wide with disbelief at the scale of our victory. The northern pass is ours, Your Majesty. The Shu vanguard is decimated. The eastern flank attempted to regroup in the valley. Our hidden forces emerged from the forests. They're surrounded. The Shu king's personal guard broke away, heading toward the reported treasury location. General Wei's elite unit is in pursuit. Each report brings me one step closer to complete vengeance. I watch Liana's face as she stands by my side in the throne room. I've insisted she join me to share in our kingdom's triumph over these unexpected invaders. Her composure begins to crack. Confusion, fear, disbelief. She struggles to understand how her perfect plan has unraveled so completely. How is this possible? She asks, voice barely above a whisper. How could they be so thoroughly defeated? Curious how concerned you are for our enemies, Princess, I observe calmly. Her eyes snap to mine. For an instant, I see the mask slip completely. Calculation, hatred, panic. Then the mask returns. I merely express surprise at their foolishness in attacking such a strong kingdom. Strong, not the weakened, vulnerable target she promised her father. By midday, the victory is undeniable. The Shi forces are broken, scattered, or captured. Their famous generals either dead or in chains. Their supposedly invincible army destroyed in a single morning. Looking back, I realize the most satisfying revenge isn't watching enemies die. It's watching them realize they've been outplayed at every turn. The coup de grace comes as the afternoon sun begins its descent. My elite guard captures the Shu king himself, caught attempting to access the non-existent treasure vault beneath the eastern pavilion. The vault Liana assured him would contain my kingdom's wealth, guarded by only a token force. They drag him into the throne room in chains, his once regal attire torn and bloodied, his crown missing, his arrogance shattered. When he sees me seated, on my throne, calm and prepared, understanding dawns in his eyes. He knows he's been betrayed, not by his daughter, but by his own greed and my careful planning. When his gaze shifts to Liana standing beside my throne, I see a silent communication pass between them. A desperate question, a helpless answer. Now for the final act of this performance. I rise from my throne, addressing the assembled court. There is a traitor among us, one who has conspired with our enemies, passed crucial information, and planned to open our gates to invaders. Liana tenses beside me. Her hand slips toward the concealed dagger I've always known she carries. I turn, not toward her, but toward Minister Ju. You have served the Shu kingdom well, but your usefulness ends today. Guards seize him as evidence of his treachery is presented, documents I planted months ago. This misdirection buys precious moments as Liana believes herself still undiscovered. She exhales slowly. Relief floods her face. I am not done playing with my prey. Such betrayal demands a public reckoning, I declare, ordering preparations for an imperial assembly. All must witness justice delivered. Minister Zhu protests his innocence as he's dragged away. No one believes him. The evidence is too convincing, the timing too perfect. When the court disperses, Liana approaches me, her confidence partially restored. You detected the traitor among us? I'm impressed, husband. One of them, I reply, cryptically. That night she comes to my chambers more desperate than ever to maintain her cover. She offers wine, affection, her body. All the weapons she used to manipulate me before. I accept the wine, knowing it's not poisoned. Not yet. She won't make her final move until she has some plan to salvage her father's freedom. To victory, she toasts, eyes studying my face. To justice, I counter, complete and inescapable. Something in my tone makes her hesitate. For a moment, I see genuine fear in her eyes. She should be afraid. The game nears its conclusion. The Imperial Assembly is scheduled for the following day. All nobles, officials, and foreign dignitaries will attend. The perfect audience for the unveiling of the true traitor. Looking back, I realize I savored these final hours of her ignorance more than I should have. The anticipation of revenge is sometimes sweeter than its fulfillment. Morning arrives. The grand throne room fills with the elite of my kingdom and representatives from our allies. The Shi King kneels in chains at the center, still proud despite his capture. Liana stands at my side, the picture of loyal devotion. She believes she's escaped detection. She thinks Minister Zhu's imprisonment has provided the perfect scapegoat. I begin the proceedings with formal declarations of the Shi Kingdom's unprovoked aggression and their subsequent defeat. I detail the capture of their king, the destruction of their army, but most disturbing, I continue, is the discovery of treachery within our very walls. Liana's posture stiffens almost imperceptibly. Minister Zhu's betrayal was real, I announce, but he was merely a pawn in a larger game. I gesture for the guards to bring forward the final witness, Liana's handmaiden. The princess freezes beside me. Speak, I command the terrified servant. The princess has been sending military information to her father, she confesses, trembling. Planning to open the palace gates when the signal came. Liana's composure finally shatters completely. Lies! This servant speaks treason. I turn to her, dropping my mask of affection after months of perfect deception. Does she? I produce copies of every message she sent, every meeting I documented, every betrayal I allowed to unfold while watching from the shadows. You knew? She whispers, comprehension dawning in her eyes. I knew everything, I reply. I didn't just survive her betrayal. I transformed it into the instrument of her destruction. You knew? Liana whispers, horror dawning in her eyes as I produce evidence of her betrayal before the entire court. I knew everything, I reply, pulling her close to whisper. I knew how you would drug my wine, how you would signal your father's hidden forces, how you would stand beside him as I was executed. Your smile, the last thing I would see. Her face drains of color. That's impossible. That never happened. For you, no. For me, it did. I release her, turning to address the stunned assembly. The Princess of Shai stands before you as an enemy of our kingdom, a spy who shared our bed while plotting our destruction. Guards surround her immediately. The Shi King roars in defiance, struggling against his chains. Their eyes meet across the throne room, a final desperate communication between father and daughter. You have no evidence, he shouts. Only the word of a frightened servant against a princess. I laugh, the sound echoing through the suddenly silent hall. No evidence? I have intercepted every message the princess sent. I have documented every meeting with her spies. I have recorded every military secret she attempted to steal. I gesture, and servants bring forward scroll after scroll, each bearing Liana's personal seal, each containing damning proof of her treachery. Looking back, I realize the most devastating weapon against betrayal is patience. While they plotted in darkness, I built an inescapable case in the light. These past 3 months, I continue addressing the court, I have allowed the princess to believe her deception successful. I fed her false information. I tracked her movements. I identified every co-conspirator within our walls. I turned to Liana, whose mask of dignity is crumbling by the second. Your father's army marched directly into a trap I spent months designing. Every weakness you reported to him was fabricated. Every opportunity you promised was a lie. This is madness, she protests, eyes darting around the room for allies and finding none. He speaks of impossible knowledge of events that never occurred. The results speak for themselves, I counter. How else could I have anticipated your father's exact invasion route? How else could I have positioned our forces so perfectly? The Shi army was destroyed because I knew precisely what they would do. The Shi king stares at me with newfound fear, not the fear of a captured enemy, but the dread of a man facing something he cannot comprehend. What are you? He asks, voice barely audible. What indeed? A man who died and returned, an emperor given a second chance, a victim transformed into an architect of perfect revenge. Justice, I answer simply. I approach Liana, who stands rigidly between her guards. For months I've played the besotted husband. For months I've endured her touch while remembering her betrayal. Now I can finally show her the truth that has lived behind my eyes. In another life, I tell her quietly, you succeeded. Your father's forces breached these walls. My generals were executed before my eyes, my people enslaved. And you, princess, watched with that same cold smile as the executioner took my head. Her eyes widen. Disbelief battles with dawning terror. Somehow, I continue, fate granted me the chance to rewrite that future, to turn your weapons against you, to ensure that this time, justice would be served. You're insane, she whispers. No. I smile, the same smile she gave me as I died. I'm simply better at this game than you are. I didn't realize until that moment how completely I had destroyed her. Not just her plans, but her understanding of reality itself. The Shi King's execution is scheduled for sunset. A public event to demonstrate the consequence of aggression against my kingdom. I order Liana brought to witness it, just as I was forced to watch my generals die in that other life. The execution platform stands in the central square. Crowds gather, their mood more celebratory than somber. A great enemy has been defeated. Justice will be served. The Shi King kneels before the executioner, his final dignity stripped away. When Liana is brought forward, he attempts one last display of strength for his daughter's benefit. Hold your head high, he calls to her. Show them the pride of Shi. I step between them, blocking their view of each other. Pride? Is that what you felt as you watched my kingdom burn? Is that what drove you to order my execution rather than seek a true alliance? You have won, he says bitterly. Isn't that enough? I think of my severed head, of Liana's smile, of my people in chains. No, I reply. Victory isn't enough, not after what you took from me. The executioner raises his blade. Liana tries to look away, but guards hold her head in position. She must watch as I watched. She must remember as I remembered. The blade falls. The Shi King's head rolls across the platform. Blood stains the wood just as mine did in that other life. Liana collapses to her knees, a broken sound escaping her lips. Not a scream or a wail, but something deeper. The sound of complete defeat. I stand above her, feeling nothing but cold satisfaction. Did you think death would be your punishment, princess? Death is mercy. Death is escape. For her, I have designed a different fate. The imperial court reconvenes the following day. Liana is brought before the throne, no longer dressed as a princess but in simple white robes, the color of mourning, the color of the dead. Liana of Shi, I pronounce formally, you are stripped of all titles and position. The marriage between us is dissolved as if it never existed. Your name will be struck from all imperial records. Each sentence falls like another executioner's blade. Identity, status, History. All cut away. Death would make you a martyr, I continue. Instead, you will live out your days in the monastery at Eagle's Peak, far from power, from comfort, from memory itself. Eagle's Peak, the most remote outpost in my kingdom, a place where winter lasts 8 months of the year, where contact with the outside world comes once per season at most. You cannot do this, she says, voice hollow. I am a princess of She. She no longer exists as a sovereign kingdom, I inform her. Your father's territories have been absorbed into our empire. Your royal line ends with you, forgotten and powerless. Looking back, I realize the greatest punishment for someone who craved power was not pain, not death, but complete irrelevance. The guards take her away. Her final look contains no defiance, no hatred, only dawning comprehension of the fate that awaits her, a living death of obscurity. 10 years pass. My empire flourishes, expanded by the addition of the former Shire territories. I take a new empress, one whose loyalty is unquestioned. We have children, heirs to secure the dynasty. But vengeance is a cold companion. It leaves emptiness in its wake. I visit Eagle's Peak Monastery during the 10th year of my reign. A remote, stone structure perched on a windswept mountain. The journey is arduous, the climate harsh. The abbess bows deeply when I arrive. We did not expect the honor of an imperial visit, Your Majesty. I come to see a former resident of the court, I explain, one who has long been forgotten by the world. She leads me to a small stone cell with a single window overlooking barren mountains. Inside sits a woman I barely recognize, thin, gray-haired, despite being only in her 30s, her beauty worn away by time and isolation. When she sees me, recognition dawns slowly in her eyes. Have you come to kill me at last? Her voice sounds strange, cracked from disuse. The once proud princess reduced to this hollow shell? No, I reply. I came to tell you something I've kept secret all these years. I came to tell you something I've kept secret all these years. I tell Liana as I stand in her small monastic cell. She stares at me, this shadow of the woman who once plotted my destruction. Her once lustrous hair hangs limp and gray, her royal posture replaced by a permanent stoop, her clever eyes dulled by a decade of isolation. What more could you possibly have to say? She asks, voice barely above a whisper. You've taken everything. Not everything, I reply. Your father still lives. Her eyes widen, sudden hope flaring in them. The first real emotion I've seen on her face since the day of her sentencing. What? Where? I step closer, lowering my voice as if sharing a precious secret. In the adjacent cell. For 10 years you've been separated by a single wall, neither aware of the other's presence. She staggers back as if physically struck. Her hands fly to the rough stone wall of her cell, pressing against it desperately. Father? She calls, voice breaking. Father, can you hear me? No response comes. There never could be. The walls of Eagle's Peak Monastery are 3 feet thick, built to withstand the mountain storms, built to ensure complete isolation. I place a small dagger on her sleeping pallet. Simple, unadorned, sharp. A gift, I tell her. Now you have a choice. I didn't know it when I planned this final cruelty, but revenge truly is a dish best served cold. 10 years cold. A decade of suffering before the final twist of the knife. Liana falls to her knees beside the pallet, staring at the dagger. Is this mercy at last? Permission to end my suffering? It's a choice, I correct her. You can use it to take your own life. You can attempt to break through the wall to your father, though you'd wear the blade to nothing before making a hole large enough. Or you can wait until I leave and try to kill the abbess, steal her keys, and find your father. Her mind works visibly behind her eyes. The princess who orchestrated my downfall still exists somewhere inside this broken woman. She calculates, weighs options, forms plans. Why tell me this now, after all these years? I smile, the same cold smile she gave me on the execution platform in that other life. because hope can be the cruelest punishment of all. Looking back, I realized this was the moment I crossed a line, from justified vengeance to something darker, something that would have been unrecognizable to the man I was before my death. I turned to leave. She doesn't move toward the dagger, not while I'm watching. She's too clever for that, even now. At the doorway, I pause. One more thing, Princess. The guards have orders to check on your father immediately after my departure. If he's freed or contacted in any way, he'll be executed on the spot. Her breath catches. The perfect trap. Any action she takes to verify my claim or reach her father will result in his death if he truly lives. Inaction means continuing to live with the unbearable knowledge that he might be just beyond the wall. You're a monster, she whispers. You created me. I reply simply. As I close the door behind me, I hear her whisper, Father? And I smile, knowing some revenges are best when they never end. The abbess awaits me in the corridor, head bowed respectfully. Is there anything else you require, Your Majesty? Double the guard tonight, I instruct. The prisoner may become desperate. She nods, not questioning my orders. No one questions the Emperor. There is no prisoner in the adjacent cell, is there? She asks quietly. I regard her for a moment, considering whether to answer truthfully. Does it matter? She believes there might be, that's punishment enough. I make the long journey back to my capital, leaving Liena with her fresh torment. The dagger, the wall, the impossible choice. 10 more years pass. My empire expands further. My children grow. My name becomes legendary among my people. The Emperor, who crushed the Shir invasion. The ruler who doubled the kingdom's territory. The man who brought a golden age of prosperity. Few remember the Shi princess who nearly destroyed everything. Her name exists only in sealed records, a footnote to history. I thought I had put her from my mind entirely. I believed my vengeance complete. Yet something draws me back to Eagle's Peak as the 20th anniversary of my rebirth approaches. I didn't realize until I was halfway up the mountain path why I needed to make this journey. Some part of me needed to see the final outcome of my revenge, to witness what 2 decades of isolation and that last cruel revelation had wrought. The monastery looks unchanged, the same weathered stone, the same harsh surroundings, the same silent monks and nuns going about their devotions. The abbess has changed. The previous one died years ago. Her successor knows me only as the Emperor who occasionally inquires after a nameless prisoner. She lives, the new abbess informs me, though perhaps exists would be more accurate. Take me to her, I command. The cell is the same. Small, sparse, a single window overlooking the barren landscape, but its occupant has transformed beyond recognition. Liena sits on the floor, rocking slightly. Her hair is completely white now, though she is only in her 40s. Her fingers endlessly trace patterns on the stone wall. Patterns that, I realize with a shock, are attempts to write her father's name. She doesn't look up when I enter, doesn't acknowledge my presence at all. How long has she been like this? I ask the abbess. Since I arrived 5 years ago, she replies. The previous abbess said she changed dramatically after your last visit. She spent months trying to claw through the wall with a dagger until her fingers bled. When the dagger broke, she used the fragments until they were confiscated. I stare at what remains of the proud, cunning princess who once orchestrated my downfall. Does she speak? Rarely. Mostly she just whispers to the wall. Conversations with her father. I approach Liena slowly, kneeling beside her. Princess, I say softly. No response. No recognition. Her eyes continue staring at the wall, seeing something beyond the stone. Can you hear me, Liena? Her head turns slightly, eyes focusing on me for a brief moment before sliding away again. He answers sometimes, she whispers. When the wind is right. When I've been good. I feel something unexpected stir in my chest. Not satisfaction. Not the cold pleasure of complete victory. Something else. Something uncomfortable. Looking back at my life's path since rebirth, I see how single-minded my pursuit of vengeance has been, how it shaped every decision, every relationship, every moment. "Leave us," I tell the abbess. When we're alone, I reach out, touching Leanna's shoulder. She flinches, then goes still. "There was never anyone in the next cell," I tell her quietly. "Your father died 20 years ago on the execution platform." She gives no sign of hearing me. Her fingers continue their endless tracing on the wall. "Do you understand, Leanna? It was a lie, the final part of my revenge." Slowly she turns to face me fully. For an instant I see clarity in her eyes, the sharp intelligence that once made her such a dangerous enemy. "I know," she says, voice suddenly stronger, more present. "I've always known." I wasn't prepared for this, for her lucidity after years of apparent madness. "Then why?" I gestured to the wall, to her scarred fingers. "All this?" A ghost of her old smile crosses her lips. "Because it gave me purpose, something to live for. Even a false hope is better than none at all." She leans closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "And because I knew someday you would return, that your revenge wouldn't feel complete without seeing what you'd created." I stare at her, unsettled by this unexpected turn. "You've been pretending? All these years?" "Not pretending. Surviving. Adapting. Waiting." Her hand shoots out with surprising speed, grabbing my wrist. Her nails dig into my flesh. "You kept me alive when death would have been mercy," she hisses. "That was your mistake. The living can always find purpose, even in suffering." I pull away, disturbed by the fire suddenly rekindled in her eyes. "What purpose could you possibly have here, forgotten and powerless?" "To see your face when you realized your perfect revenge brought you no peace," she answers. "To watch you understand that in destroying me, you destroyed something in yourself as well." I stand abruptly, unsettled by the truth in her words. I have everything: power, family, legacy. Yet something remains hollow at my core, something that all my vengeance failed to heal. "Goodbye, Princess," I say stiffly. "We won't meet again." As I reach the door, her voice follows me, stronger than it has any right to be after 20 years of confinement. "Tell me, Emperor, was it worth it? Did vengeance heal the wound of my betrayal, or did it simply ensure the cut never closed?" I don't answer. I can't. I leave the monastery with her question echoing in my mind. The journey back to my capital gives me too much time to consider her words, too much time to examine the emptiness that still exists within me, despite my complete victory. Perhaps true revenge isn't found in the suffering of others, but in finding happiness despite their betrayal. Perhaps I've been the true prisoner, these past 20 years locked in a cell of my own making. I reach the palace gates as this realization settles over me. My guards snap to attention. My ministers await my return. My family prepares to welcome me home. I am emperor. I have power beyond imagining. I crushed my enemies completely. And yet, 5 years after my last visit to Eagle's Peak, I dream of Leanna. She stands on the execution platform, but our roles are reversed. I kneel before the executioner while she watches, that same cold smile on her face. When I wake, my hand flies to my throat, feeling for a blade that never falls in this reality. My youngest son finds me on the palace balcony before dawn, staring at the distant mountains where Eagle's Peak Monastery perches like a predator bird. "Father, the ministers await you in the council chamber." I nod without turning. "I'll be there shortly." He hesitates, sensing my distraction. "Is something troubling you?" "Everything and nothing. Victory that tastes like ash. Vengeance that failed to heal." "Just the burdens of rule," I reply. My son accepts this answer and leaves me to my thoughts. He never knew Leanna. Never knew the war that reshaped our kingdom. For him, the Shi were always part of our empire, their royal line, a footnote in history lessons. I didn't realize then how profoundly Leanna's last words had affected me, how they festered in my mind like a splinter buried too deep to remove. The day passes in a blur of meetings, decisions, governance. I sign edicts. I receive foreign emissaries. I inspect new military formations. I perform all the functions of an emperor without fully being present. My mind remains at Eagle's Peak with a white-haired woman who found purpose even in the prison I designed to break her. That night, I make a decision. I summon my most trusted general, Wei, now an old man like myself. I want you to go to Eagle's Peak Monastery. I tell him. Bring the prisoner there to the capital, secretly, under heavy guard. Wei's eyes widen. After all these years, he knows exactly which prisoner I mean. Your Majesty, is that wise? After everything she did? It's not about wisdom, I reply. It's about finishing what began 25 years ago. Looking back at my life since rebirth, I realize I've been living in a prison of my own design. A cage built from memories of a life that no longer exists. Leanna was right. My revenge brought no peace, only emptiness. Wei leaves at dawn with a contingent of elite guards. The journey to Eagle's Peak takes 7 days. 7 days during which I prepare a special chamber in the palace's most secure wing. Not a cell exactly, not quite a room. Something between prison and residence. My empress questions this unusual arrangement. Why bring her here after all this time? Why not let her die forgotten? Because some things must be faced, I answer. Not forgotten. When Wei returns, Leanna is not what I expected. The broken, wall-staring madwoman is gone. In her place is a composed woman with straight posture and clear eyes, thin, aged beyond her years, but unmistakably present. Aware, she meets my gaze without flinching as guards escort her into my private study. No one else is present. Just the two of us and 25 years of hatred. So, she says, voice surprisingly strong, you couldn't stay away. I dismiss the guards with a gesture. When the door closes, we're truly alone for the first time since I exposed her betrayal. You've recovered your sanity, I observe. She laughs, a dry sound like autumn leaves. I never lost it. I simply found a different way to survive. I study her face, searching for the beauty that once captivated my court. It's gone, eroded by time and hardship, yet something else has taken its place. A hardness, a resilience I never anticipated. Why did you bring me here? She asks. After 25 years of exile, why now? I consider lying. Consider maintaining the facade of the all-powerful emperor who answers to no one. Instead, I find myself speaking truth. Your question, from 5 years ago, about whether vengeance brought peace. And did it? No. She nods slowly, unsurprised. Few things are more hollow than revenge fully realized. I didn't understand the true nature of power until that moment, how it shifts and flows between people, how sometimes surrender brings strength. I'm dying, I tell her abruptly. A tumor grows in my brain. The imperial physicians give me months, perhaps a year. Her expression doesn't change. No satisfaction, no pity, just calm acceptance of another fact. Is that why I'm here? To watch you die? Your final attempt at symmetry? No. I shake my head. You're here because I need to understand something before I die, something only you can explain. And what is that, Emperor? How you found purpose in suffering, how you survived when I designed everything to break you. She considers me for a long moment. The princess who orchestrated my death in another lifetime. The prisoner who outlasted my vengeance in this one. You truly want to know? I do. She sits without permission in a chair opposite mine, assuming an equality between us that should infuriate me but somehow doesn't. I survived by remembering who I was. Not the princess, not the wife, not even the prisoner. Something more essential that you couldn't touch no matter how complete your victory. I lean forward, genuinely curious. And what was that? My capacity, To choose. Even in that cell with nothing but a wall to stare at, I could choose how to respond. You took everything else, but not that. Looking back, I see how completely I misunderstood the nature of my enemy. I thought power came from controlling others, from bending them to my will, from taking away their choices. The day you gave me that dagger, she continues, you thought you were being cruel, but you gave me back the power to choose my fate. It was the first time in a decade I felt alive. I remember her scarred fingers, her wall-tracing rituals. But you chose to stay imprisoned, to maintain the lie that your father might be nearby. I chose to wait, to watch, to discover if my intuition about you was correct. What intuition? She smiles faintly. That your victory would hollow you out from the inside. That someday you would realize emptiness was the price of your perfect revenge. Her words strike with more force than any physical blow. The truth I've avoided confronting for years. And now, I ask, now that you've been proven right, what purpose drives you now? Curiosity, she answers simply, to see how this strange story ends. I laugh despite myself. After all these years, all this hatred, she can still surprise me. It ends with death, I remind her. Mine, soon enough. Yours, eventually. All stories end with death, Emperor. The question is what happens before that final page. I stand, moving to the window overlooking my vast capital. The empire I expanded. The legacy I built. All soon to pass to my eldest son. I've arranged quarters for you, I tell her. Not a cell. Not freedom either. Something between. Why not? Execute me and be done with it? I turn back to her. Because I want you to witness what comes next. I didn't know then that my final act would be neither vengeance nor mercy, but something more complex. A recognition that our stories had always been intertwined, from that first life through this strange second chance. The following week I summon the imperial court. Liana stands to the side, guarded but visible. Whispers spread through the assembled nobles. Few recognize her. 25 years have transformed her completely. But some of the oldest courtiers remember. Their eyes widen with shock. Today, I announce, I acknowledge a truth long buried. The Shi Princess Liana, whom many believed dead, has been imprisoned at my command for 25 years. Gasps spread through the court. My sons look confused, then concerned. This isn't the aging emperor they know. Her crimes against our kingdom were real, I continue. Her punishment just. But as I face my own mortality, I recognize that endless vengeance serves neither the living nor the dead. I gesture and servants bring forward a small chest. When opened, it reveals royal vestments of Shi design, carefully preserved for a quarter century. Princess Liana will live out her remaining days in the North Palace, not as prisoner, not as royalty, but as living memory, a reminder of what occurs when cycles of betrayal and revenge consume us. Liana's expression changes for the first time since her arrival. Genuine surprise breaks through her composed mask. My final decree is this, I announce. Upon my death, she will be granted the choice to return to the former Shi territories, where a small estate awaits her. Not power, not restoration, but acknowledgement that even the greatest enemies may find resolution. The court erupts in murmurs. My sons look betrayed. My empress shocked. Yet I feel lighter than I have in 25 years. Later, alone with Liana, I ask the question that has haunted me since my rebirth. If you could return to that first life, knowing what you know now, would you still betray me? She considers carefully before answering. Would you still execute me if I did? Yes. Then we remain who we always were, she replies, shaped by fate into perfect enemies. I nod, accepting this truth. Perhaps in another life, we might have been something else. Perhaps. She looks out the window toward the distant mountains. Or perhaps some hatreds run too deep for even death to erase. 3 months later, as the imperial physicians predicted, The tumor claims my life. My last conscious thought is of Leanna's face on the execution platform in that other lifetime, wondering if somewhere in the cycle of existence we're still locked in the same deadly dance. As I close my eyes for the final time, I hear her whisper, "Until we meet again, Emperor." And I smile, knowing some stories never truly end.